Assalamu alaikum class. Today we are going to discuss a new topic, that is orientation, placement and socialization and separation within the organization. Last time we have discussed another function of HR management, that was recruitment and selection. That was one of the most important aspects of HRM, human resource management, and we have gone through the details that how the organization recruits the individuals and finally select the candidates as per the requirement of the organization. Now moving on towards the next step of that particular cycle, that is orientation, placement and separation. Obviously, once you have appointed, once you have selected the candidates that are suitable for your organization, now you will have to allocate those employees in your organization. And for that purpose, you will start with the orientation. The formal definition of orientation explains itself, that is planned introduction of employees to get their jobs, their co-workers and the organization. That is the introduction of organization, the introduction of their work and the introduction of their colleagues to the new entrants within the organization. The purpose of orientation, as it's self-explanatory, that is to overcome the employee anxiety. A good candidate, a good employee can be an asset for the organization, that it can prove to be the asset of an organization, whereas a worst employee or an unqualified employee can be a disaster for the organization. So obviously, or a confused one, the employees, the candidates cannot deliver their tasks, they cannot be beneficial for the organization until and unless they get into their comfort zone. Even in the interviews, we can see that the main purpose of the interviewer is to somehow make the interviewees comfortable, so as to deliver and show their true potential. The same is the case with the orientation. Within orientation, the main purpose of the orientation is to overcome employee anxiety, being in the new place, being in the new organization, the pressure, work pressure, and the pressure to prove themselves within the new environment. Overcoming reality shock, that is all about the cognitive dissonance. They have the organization, the introduction of the organization should be properly delivered. So they should well understand what is expected of them. Maybe while getting into the organization, while entering into the organization, they might have some different expectations, but they should be well demonstrated at the time of their entry, so they may work as per the needs of the organization. Next is to make the new employee feel at home in the new environment, as discussed earlier, to help the new employee adjust to a new job and work environment. The same is the case. As we have discussed, the orientation is the main most important topic of this particular whole presentation, that is orientation, placement and separation. And if you have delivered a proper orientation, you will have a good candidate, you will have a dedicated employee in your hands. So therefore, the orientation topics should be considered very carefully. Orientation should be designed very carefully. You are representing your organization in front of the new employees, in front of the prospective employees. So every component should be in accordance to the plan. The topics that are often covered in the orientation program includes the organizational, so first of all, the introduction of the organization, the history of the organization, the areas in which they are working. You have to make your employee proud of the ground they are now going to work. So next comes the benefits. The response introduction includes the history and overview of the organization. Then next comes the job work responsibilities of that particular employee, or what is expected of them, the organizational ethics, the work area, the rules and regulations that they need to be that they need to follow, and the expectations from those employees. Then comes the benefits that are provided to them. Whenever you are delivering, whenever you are explaining the responsibilities to a certain person, you always have to specify the benefits to them as well, so as to keep the motivation level high. With every responsibility comes the benefit, and with all the benefits comes the responsibilities. So whenever you are going to explain the duties of the employees, you should also explain them the benefits of or the benefits or the remunerations to them, so as to keep them motivated. Next comes the organizational issues. You should also make them aware of the issues that exist in your organization. The employees, these employees are the asset of your organization. They have to be well aware of the work arena, of the work ethics, of the work scenario, the benefits, the issues, so they may be able to deliver well. In case if they're ignorant, if they're not properly communicated, the issues that exist in the organization, they might caught in the into the accidents, they might caught in the problems. So these particular things should be explained at the time of orientation. Orientation conveys three types of information: the same, the daily work routine, organizational history, detailed presentation of brochure, organization, work rules, employees benefit, and all these things that we have already discussed. Then comes the orientation program. The orientation program, as we have discussed earlier, keeping in mind the fact that your first impression will be your last impression, and you are there to make the employees proud of themselves. You are there to make the fresh candidates proud of themselves for being the part of the organization, so they may be able to deliver their true potential to the organization. They may be able to be beneficial for the organization. So as we have discussed, that orientation program should be designed very carefully. Each and every word, each and every component should be meaningful, should have some purpose in hand. An orientation program can either be the formal or informal. It can either be the individual or collective. It can either be in series or disjunctive and investiture or divestiture. It's as per the design of that orientation program is based on the nature of job. In case if you're hiring the interns or within the organization, in case if you're hiring a new person, the nature of job depends on the nature of job, the importance of that particular job for the organization, and the number of employees that are hired at the same time. You have to select that different type of orientation program as per or on the basis of all these things. So they may, in case, for example, if you have hired the interns, keeping in mind the fact that a number of interns are hired at the same time. So obviously individual cannot be done at that particular moment. You will have to go for the collective. And at times it happens that instead of formally introducing your company, you go for informal orientation program so as to make them more comfortable in the organization. Or at times it happens that instead of introducing the whole organization and simultaneously you just introduce them step by step, whether the department based, department wise, or something like that. Now, the requisites of an effective orientation program. The prerequisite while designing the orientation program. You have to prepare for new employees. You have to understand what information is desired by the new employees. The main objective of the orientation program is not to just deliver a speech. It's all about introducing your organization, representing your organization to the new employees. It's also to make them comfortable in the work environment, to make them aware of their duties and the behavior that is expected of them. It is also to make them proud of the organization, because a proud employee always try to be more and more beneficial for the organization. They try to deliver their true potential to the organization. They want to be very much effective for the organization. So you have to understand that what is the information expected by the employees and what is the information they want to know. Now, the next thing that comes, determine how to present the information. As we have discussed, there are so many ways. Either you can go for the formal presentation, either you can go for informal one, the individual, or the collective group in case if you're dealing with the collective group, formally, informally, in series, or simultaneously. It's up to you. It's as per, it depends on the nature of job, the nature of task, the nature of responsibilities to be delivered, to be given to the employees. So you have to be vigilant. You have to be versatile while designing the orientation program. You have to be flexible. You have to design the program according to the employees, according to their mindset. And then comes, you have to complete the paperwork. You have to prepare your homework. You have to be completely prepared for the orientation program. So as to not make it haphazard in front of the new employees. Keep in mind the fact that this is supposed to be the first impression that will define the work standard, future work standard for them. So in case if you will deliver in the best way, you can expect the best work from them. Then comes the content and responsibility for your orientation. As we have discussed, that the orientation program has to be very carefully designed. So the person who is responsible for designing that content should be flexible, should be versatile, and they should design the program as per the needs of the employees. They usually rely on HR department and the supervisor that is used, because they cover that particular work, that particular orientation explains two broad categories, that is general topic of interest to most new employees and specific job related issues of concern only to specific job holders. These two areas are usually, they are actually related to HR department of an organization. So therefore, the responsibility of delivering that particular orientation is also given to the HR personnel. One of the method that is used for the purpose of, methods used for the purpose of, used for the purpose of delivering orientation is the socialization. Organizational socialization is defined in several different ways. It includes three aspects: acquisition of work skills and abilities, adoption of appropriate role behavior, adjustment to the norms and values of the group. Socialization is somehow expected of the new employees. And once you socialize them in the existing scenario of the organization, you would be able to ensure their retention within the organization instead of immediate quit. Is the ongoing process through which an employee begins to understand and accept the values, norms, and beliefs held by others in the organization. The socialization process helps the organization meet its need for productive employees while enabling new employees to meet their needs. As we have discussed earlier, that you are setting a benchmark for the new employees by delivering yourself. So it will also help them the way to socialize with the existing members of the organization and the way to deliver themselves within the organization. And one of the ways for delivering the orientation program is the employee handbook. Employee handbook comprises of the coverage of organizational issues and fringe benefits, often is supplemented with an employee handbook that describes company policies, rules, regulations, benefits, and other items. That is, employee handbook is another component that is somehow used by the organization while delivering the orientation. At the time of orientation, they give the employee handbook to the employees so as to make them aware of the organizational history, their work scenario, their ethics, their rules and regulations, the benefits to the employees, and the work and responsibilities that is expected of the employees. So obviously, when you provide the written in-print handbook to the employees, it will be far more beneficial instead of verbally demonstrating yourself at one time, because it helps in repeating, it helps it helps them in recalling the rules and regulations every now and then. So keeping in mind the fact that written material has its own importance, so most of the organization provide them employee handbook. Supervisory role, another important area while delivering the orientation. In addition to HR department's presentation, the orientation is continued by the employee supervisor who handles the job related introductions. Once the presentation is delivered by the main HR personnel, then then further responsibility is delivered to the supervisors. So further demonstrating the job related activities to the new employees. However, it's not always the case that you perfectly design the orientation for the organization. It is also evident with the fact that at times it happens that a number of employees withdraw from the organization, or they quit the organization after a few months of their joining, or they're somehow unable to produce, unable to perform their work responsibilities well. So at times, the main reason behind that particular drawback or scenario lies with the orientation process, the lack in the orientation process. The opportunities, a helpful supplement to the newcomer orientation is the assignment of a buddy. In that particular orientation, an experienced employee is asked to show the new worker around, conduct the introductions for the supervisor, and answer the newcomer's question. These are somehow different ways to make the new employees comfortable in the work scenario, so as to be the part of work family. Evaluation of orientation program. Uh, you have to, whenever you plan something, whenever you strategize something, whenever you deliver something, evaluation and control are somehow the key components in redefining, redesigning, and effective repetition of those programs. Evaluation of orientation program it can either be done with the help of questionnaires after the demonstration. You can distribute the questionnaires to the new employees. So as to get the data, as to get your facts straight, whether they have got the right information about the organization that you wanted to deliver. It will help you cross match the facts, what you wanted to deliver and what they actually understand. So with the help of that particular questionnaire, with the help of different material, you would be able to get moreover, you can also ask them in case if they have further queries, in case if a lot of people have further queries. In that case, you were not totally, um, uh, you were not totally elaborated the facts related to the job responsibilities. You can either evaluate, you can either just get the facts from the new employees with the help of interviews or the group discussions. The main objective is just to cross match the facts, what you wanted to just get the feedback, what you wanted to communicate to them, and what they actually perceived in order to avoid any future problem. However, problem occurs, there is no strategy that can be considered 100% appropriate. There is always a room for improvement. So the problems that exist within the orientation, at times it happens that too much information is provided to the employees regarding the organization, regarding the job, regarding the rules and regulation. So they feel themselves overwhelmed. In that case, uh, they are somehow, they feel themselves stressed. They are somehow stressed out in a way that they won't be able to deliver in the later stages. They're overloaded with forms to complete. Your feedback form should not be very much elaborated, very much long, so that itself becomes a responsibility to them, that they have to complete the form. The first responsibility while entering into the organization is to complete a form. That should not be the case. Giving very less or more work, that discourages them. That's a very normal phenomena that at the time of orientation, you neither have to keep the work level very low, so that defines their future work scenario. Neither it should be too overloaded that they feel overburdened as well, because that somehow discourages, that somehow negatively affect the organizational work ethics, organizational uh, appearance, or organizational impression, what you can say. So they have to be, workload should be human. Your workload should be balanced. Next, to force to fill the gaps. It should not be like that, that they are just hired, they are just appointed just to fill in the gaps. No, you have hired the potential. You have hired the true potential. They should be they should be uh, somehow demonstrated as a potential. They should be acknowledged as a potential, and they should be given the chance to deliver their potential rather than just given the vacancy to fill in the gaps. Throw into action too soon should not be the case. Just let them accommodate themselves within the environment. The more they will be comfortable within the environment, the more they will be able to deliver themselves better. Mistakes can damage the company and may develop wrong perception in the mind of the employees, the new employees, and in the mind of the outsider, the customer, or the outside stakeholders, whoever meets those employees. Whenever, at times, the lacking of an orientation program can be found immediately. And at times it happens that the immediate response is not yet, cannot be obtained. So in that case, that is somehow more crucial as compared to identifying that particular loophole in the beginning stages, because in that case, in case if you're unable to identify the loophole within the orientation program, it will affect the long-term performance of the company, and it somehow affects it negatively. The indicators that that defines the faulty orientation program includes the low morale of employees, the new employees, their low productivity, more accident that defines, that explains the lack of knowledge, the lack of work knowledge given to them, early quits, as we have discussed earlier, or request for transfer, absenteeism, various sorts of complaints. Because all these problems show that either they were not given the complete information regarding their job, either they were overwhelmed with the information. They are feeling burdened, overburdened, instead of being energized within the work scenario. So while evaluating the orientation program, immediate evaluation is important, and long-term evaluation is also very much important, that you have to keep an eye that what does the organization have these indicators or these occurrences too soon that shows the fault in orientation program. The role play differences that explains the good difference between the good orientation and the bad orientation. A good orientation welcomes new employees, whereas the bad one search for, whereas in case of bad orientation, the new employee has to search for the HR department while entering into the organization. The orientation kit should be ready before the arrival of the new employees. Rather, after the arrival of employees, you take hour and hour and hour to get the material ready and just to get them in action. As we have said before, that your first impression, you are there to represent the organization, you are there to represent the organizational culture, being the HR personnel, and you are setting a benchmark for those people. So in that case, whatever you are doing today, that will define the future work behavior of those people. Colleagues are not prejudiced. whereas in case of bad orientation, they are prejudiced. Lunch with the senior manager, it's good to have because so as to better accommodate them. It's not always the case that it somehow eradicate the gap between. A little gap should be maintained where a big, huge gap results in the communication gap and work gap within the management. So whereas in case of bad orientation, there will be no introduction with the senior management. They will not know who is who. So it should not be done. Orientation over a week or 1 day orientation. A good orientation should be a little lengthy, should take time. They are just humans. They are not robots. They cannot memorize every fact and figure in a day. You have to keep in mind that they are humans. They have limited capacity. Moreover, at the time of their first day, they were the work environment is also new. They have to adjust themselves in the work environment. First day, somehow make them comfortable in the new workplace. And it takes time to start absorbing the environment. So you have to at least suggest or keep at least a week for the good orientation. Rather delivering or somehow throwing the bucket on the new employees in a day and expect everything the very next day from them. It should not be like that. Formal and informal presentations should be delivered, and whereas in case of bad orientation, there will be no interaction, and they are just expected to come and start working by their own. This is somehow the orientation is is very important before bringing the employee into action. Now, moving on towards, as we have discussed earlier, that each and every component of the orientation program should be designed very carefully. You have to maintain a checklist of the orientation program. The employee handbook, as we have discussed earlier, in written, it's very good. It's a very good idea to keep everything in black and blue and to deliver them in written format. At the very first day, especially the key points, not everything, but at least the key point, the rules and regulations that are consistent within the organization, the history of the organization, somehow the most permanent one and the most important ones, so as to emphasize on them as well. Now, communicate pride in the company by giving each new employee an item with the company logo in it. It's also a very good strategy. You have to, as we have discussed earlier, that you have to introduce your company in a way that they should feel pride by being part of your company. So in order to achieve that particular objective, you can add furthermore ingredients into it. You can add different items. You can by giving each new employee an item with the company logo on it, so as to promote the company in their minds. Encourage communication and sense of importance by inviting new employees to have coffee or lunch with the company owner or a senior manager. Not always the owner, but it can be a senior manager. So it should make it clear. It should also it also makes it clear in the mind of new employees that whoever has the potential can get in contact, can get in touch with the higher management as well. And it's not as the higher management is not beyond approach. These things somehow are felt low important, but have a great importance in order to boost employee morale. Encourage new employees to sample the product or service that the company sells. just the employees are the best internal customers of the organization. If they are well satisfied with the product or service of the organization, they will for sure sell your company very well outside the organization. Some restaurants offer new employees a complimentary meal, but whatever you're producing, your employees should have an idea of it in a better way. Reduce the stress of starting new job by pairing new employees with a buddy, a more senior or experienced team member that can help coach them through the first few weeks on the job. You're trying to make the employees comfortable in the work environment. Even the grapevine communication, even informal communication is somehow, at times, is somehow um, encouraged in the organization, so as to bring new ideas, so as to make them comfortable within the organization. Although it has its own loopholes, it has its own drawbacks or disadvantages, but somehow it brings the people of different departments and different higher or lower management closer to each other. So they may work in in synchronization to each other. Here are some ideas. Okay, these are few ideas when devising the orientation program. The mind thinks in images, not words. So you can include the picture data, or different ideas into your orientation program. Repetition is key. Repetition is key. Repetition. The organization, the history, the work ethics, the rules and regulations, the responsibilities, the expectations, the work morale, everything should be repeated. Not a lot of times, but should be repeated in a proper manner, so as to just emboss it in their minds. Employee is most excited on the first day of work. You need to keep that excitement alive for as long as possible. You have to keep their energy level high. You have to keep them motivated. Obviously, they have joined your organization. The employee has joined your organization. They might have seen your organization in a positive light, and you have to demonstrate yourself. You have to highlight yourself in the same positive light, rather than shocking them with the difference in their expectations and your reality. Should not be like that. Your reality should be more wonderful as compared to their expectations. So they will be more and more energetic, and they will try to be loyal in the organization, loyal with the organization, so as to maintain their place with the organization. Next is the orientation program, the continuation of that thing. Games can also provide for an informal and fun orientation, as per the job, obviously, as per the job, as per the nature of growth. As like within turns, you always try to build up your company, uh, um, your company reputation as well, because the interns usually belongs to the different universities, and they will for sure, in case if they will remain motivated, they will try to become the part of your organization. They will somehow sell your organization after getting back into the institution. They will somehow promote your organization in front of different people, because they are young people. So as per the nature of job, as per the nature of scenario, you can include the activities in the orientation program. Games can somehow make them more comfortable. It can make them loose, and it can make them work in a comfortable way within the organization. Different games can be used for that thing. Now moving on towards the next part, that is the placement. Now moving on towards the next part of this particular presentation, that is the placement. Once you have given the orientation, once you have explained your organization in front of the new employees, the next comes is the placement. Placement may be defined as the determination of the job to which an accepted candidate is to be assigned and his assignment to that particular job. At times it happens that organizations interview or hire personnel for a particular job, and the job is demonstrated to them at the time of their hiring. But in many cases, it happens in many cases with the big organization, they try to hire the potential, the random potential, instead of hiring a person for a job. They try to hire a multi-talented person that can easily be placed in a multiple places, in a number of places within the organization, as per the need arise, as per the rise of your need. So next comes, in case if you have not specified the job to the person before, in case if that is explained before as well, further explanation is always good and further explanation is always required. But somehow, in case if that is not the case, in case if you have hired the general employees, you have hired the potential, different kind of potential. Now the next step after recruitment and selection, now you have to organize your resource by allocating the right job to the right person. And for that, you have to understand the potential of the employees, the potential of the new employees, and the job traits, job characteristics. What are the job requirements and what are the characteristics, what are the capabilities of the new employees. So they may be assigned a particular job. Employee placement staffing needs are met in two ways: new hires from outside the firm and a reassignment of current employees, which may be referred to as in placement. In case if you're hiring the current employees within the organization and you are just reallocating them, placement is the assignment or reassignment of an employee to a new job. Most placement decisions are made by line managers. Employee placement is the allocation of employee to the right job. Again comes the potential identification of potential of employee and identify the job needs in order to match both the components well. It includes initial assignment of new employees and promotion, transfer, demotion of present employees as per the need arises. Employee placement, collect data about the employees, construct their profile. All these steps are included in the placement procedure that helps you in placing the employee to the right place, allocating the employees to the right place. Which subgroup profile does the individual's profile best fit? For this particular scenario, you have to understand the traits or capabilities or the merits of those employees. Compare subgroup profile to job family. Which job family does subgroup profile best fit? Assign the individual to job family. Assign the individual to a specific job after further counseling and assessment. This is also one of the roles of HR. Being the HR, you at times have to counsel them. You have to do the counseling. You have to assess their potential. At times, people are shy in nature. People are not very much confident in their potential. So, being the HR, it's your responsibility to identify the hidden, the covert traits of different employees. Now moving on towards the types of placement. There are three types of placement. The ways you allocate the employee within the organization. One is the promotion. In case if you're working with the existing employees, in case if you're placing the existing employees of the organization, you either promote them. It can either with the transfers, and as we have discussed before in the previous presentation, and recruitment and selection, at times it happens that transfers and promotions occur simultaneously. Transfer with the promotion, people are usually transferred to other branches in order to avoid different kind of issues that may arise in the previous organization. So, or some because of different reasons, the organization has its own reasons so as to do both the things simultaneously, the promotion and the transfers at times. Uh, Promotion is to allocate the person to some other branch. Sorry, promotion is to assign a new job, an upgraded job to the existing employee, as the name implies. In transfer, at times it happens that the need of certain job when ends at a particular place and arise in a different place, you need to transfer the employee from one place to another place. Especially in the big organization, it happens. And at times it happens that you have to demote the employee to a low-level managerial or low-level employee post because of certain act. All of these are included in the placement. Occurs when an employee is moved from a job to another position that is higher in pay, responsibilities, or organizational level. The promotion can either be the merit-based or seniority-based. Merit-based refers towards the promotion on the basis of traits, their potential, their aptitude, whereas in the seniority-based promotions, people are promoted on the basis of the amount of time spent within the organization. The one who has served the organization for a longer duration of time, they will be promoted more as compared to the new ones. Transfer and demotions. The transfers, they occur when an employee is moved from one job to another position, relatively equal in pay and responsibility and an organizational level. Obviously, we have discussed earlier that it happens at times when the transfer is requested by the employee due to certain reason, or at times it happens when the need arise in some other branches. Demotions, they occur when an employee is moved from one job to another position, lower in pay, responsibilities, and organizational level. Uh, it's a kind of negative reinforcement, and obviously it is applied due to some kind of negative behavior involved from the employee side. The placement problems, based on the nature of jobs, keeping in mind the types of jobs can either be independent from any other people, or it can be performed in a sequential order. They can be, the jobs can be in sequence, so the responsibility should be assigned in a sequential order as well. And at times it happens that jobs are kind of pooled. They are associated with different people. Classification model for employee placement. As discussed earlier, that with the placement, you have to maintain these two files, these two areas, these two databases. One is the individual profile, group profile, that includes employee merits, employee traits, their potential, their aptitude, their work ethic, their characteristics, their past work performance, or something like that, whereas the other should be related to job, the job profile, the job family that includes the job description, the job specification, what is the job all about and what does the job requires. Placement obstacles to productivity. Again, that also has to be evaluated because there are also negative consequences of wrong placement. If you have not properly employed the candidates, if you have not placed them to their to the appropriate jobs as per their potential, if you have given the wrong responsibility to the wrong employee, they will be overwhelmed, they will be they will be stressed out, they are expected to quit early. One obstacle to productive and satisfied workforce, that they are more likely to quit during their that is one obstacle to unsatisfied workforce, is that they are more likely to quit during their first few months at any other time in their employment. This initial turnover is common. It is very common within the organization. Either they have not properly evaluated the work expected of them. It may even be beneficial if it occurs among new hires who sense that the organization or the job is not right for them. In that case, it is good. They have identified early and they just have quit the organization rather than damaging its work environment in the long run. Dissonance reduction, that is the difference between what one anticipates and what one encounters. If dissonance is too high, people take action. For new employees, that may mean quitting. Again, what they expected while getting into the organization and what they actually faced within the organization, that should be incompatible. And during the orientation, that should be properly demonstrated to them. Another terminology, the turnover cost. In case if the orientation is not well delivered, the placement decision is not properly taken, employee turnover will be high. The employee turnover cost is very much high for the organization. Once you have the employee at any stage, somehow an organization has spent a lot of amount on them. So you have to understand the amount spent on those employees and the result of, in case the employee quits the organization, that is the loss of the whole cost incurred on them, including the testing cost, the recruitment cost, the testing cost, the interview cost, the selection cost, the orientation cost, the training cost. All of these costs will go in vain in case if the employee uh, decides to quit the organization after certain period of time. The more longer the time, the more will be the loss. So the organization, the managers have to keep in mind the fact, and they have to uh, avoid those circumstances as well. Issues in placement includes the effectiveness of the program, legal compliance, and prevention of separations. The effectiveness of placement decision depends on minimizing disruption to the employee and the organization, and to minimizing the cognitive dissonance that exists within the employees. The legal compliance, the employment relationships that were not based on a formal written contract were considered to be employment at will relationships. Employment at will of either party and continued by mutual agreement. But with the more critical natures of jobs, with the more responsible jobs, at times, the legal bonding of the employee with the organization is somehow necessary. So you have to understand what do you need in which particular case. You prevention of separation. Separation that we are going to discuss in the later topic. Separations should be prevented by the HR managers. They have to prevent, as we have discussed earlier, that quitting early, the employee turnover is somehow not a good scenario for the organization. That leaves a bad impact on the reputation of organizations. Certain organizations are known for uh, firing more than hiring. So if firing the employees more than hiring, or they are known for continuously hiring new personnel and firing the old ones. So that also indicates that people avoid doing jobs in that particular organization because of the fact that there might not be the job security, or they might not have the chances of promotions in that particular organization. They might not have the chance of survival in that particular organization. So you may lose the true potential in that case. So all these things should be prevented by the HR managers. They have to prevent from losing valuable human resource. They have to ensure um, the they have to minimize. They have to prevent the loss of money invested in recruitment, selection, orientation, as we have discussed earlier, because the more time spent, the more or the delayed the decision of an employee to quit the organization because of certain scenario, that the more will be the incurred cost, and that somehow shows that employee was somehow not satisfied. So it is your responsibility to make them comfortable in the work environment. Separations, another area, orientation, placement, and the last one is the separation. Orientation is always given at the time of hiring the new employees within the organization. Placement, whenever you're accommodating the employees within the organization, or you make uh, you transfer them, you promote them, or you move them from one place to another place. Whereas the separation, now here comes a time when the organization decides to separate the individual from the organization. When the organization and the individual should be separated. There may be a lot of reasons to take that decision. At times it happens that that is done with the normal course of time. People are retired after after completing their tenures within the organization, after delivering their full services to the organization. But at times it happens that, in case, it's not always the case, while delivering the orientation, while taking the placement, we have emphasized on the fact that employees should be made comfortable. They should not be made uncomfortable in a way that they quit early. Employee turnover is expensive, but it does not imply the fact that a negative employee, or the one who is not good for the organization, should be kept within the organization. At times, it becomes necessary for the organization to fire the employee, to separate the employee from the organization, so as to safeguard the reputation of the organization from those bad employees. Separation can take place, can take several forms, such as temporary leave of absence, attrition, layoff, termination. What are these all about? Temporary leave of absence. Employees sometimes need to leave their jobs temporarily because of some medical reasons, because of the family, educational, recreation, and other activities, or other personal reasons. So in case if the employee is permanent, in case if they have proved themselves as the true asset of the organization, they are given the chance to lead their personal lives, and they are given time to lead their life properly. So temporary leave, uh, the leaves, different kind of leaves are given to different employees so as to keep them motivated. Then comes the attrition, normal separation of people from organization as a result of normal course of time, the resignation with their free will, with their free will. In attrition, people leave the organization, they get separated from the organization. That is not forced separation, that is unforced, and um, with the mutual agreement, with the mutual consent, the separation is occurred. The resignation, retirement, or death of an employee. It is initiated by the individual worker, not by the company, because it is not forced. It is with the free will, unforced. Voluntary resignations, the part of the attrition, can be reduced by satisfying. Uh, However, this needs to be understood. What is the reason? Retirement is a separate case. Death is a separate case. However, resignation of an employee has to be carefully analyzed. That should be understood, that the reason behind quitting of particular employee from the organization. Voluntary resignations can be reduced by satisfying work environment, challenging job, high quality supervision, and opportunities for personal growth. Managers and HR departments are involved with these issues through supervisor training, career planning, and other activities. Death is another we have discussed. Layoffs entail the separation of employees from the organization for economic or business reasons. Termination is a broad term that encompasses permanent separation from the organization for any reason. Usually, that refers towards firing of an employee by the organization. That is obviously the forced kind of separation, when the employee is separated from the organization because of their poor conduct, because of their lack of discipline within the organization, the late arrivals, the continuous absence, the lack of work ethics, or work morale, or whatever so. At times they are demoted, or at times they are totally terminated. Layoffs are minimized in some companies by careful HR planning. Termination, layoffs are basically whenever you downsize the organization in a huge way because of contraction that occurs within the organization. A termination, that why people are fired, it contains as in case of resignation, it gives you a scenario that why people are resigning. And the termination also needs to be carefully evaluated, that why people are required to be fired, whether there was a loophole in the disciplinary act, what was the reason. Training and employee development are another mean of reducing terminations for poor performance. Through effective training, new and long service employees can be taught how to do their jobs successfully. Now that was all with the separation, orientation, placement, and separation part of the presentation. Hope you have understand the presentation. In case if you have any queries, you can make me aware of the queries after discussion. Thank you.